Hello, my dear listeners. Hello, my dear friends. How are you all? I hope you are doing your best. So, today is Sunday, right? So, let's start our bedtime story. So, here I am to start another new story from Bengal fairy tales. This book was written by Francis Bradley-Birt and illustrated by Abanindranath Thakur. This book was published in the year 1920 by John Lane, the Bodley Head in London, and John Lane Company in New York. So let's proceed. It has three different segments of different stories, and we are reading from the part one stories told by Bhabugure the traveler. So let's start the fourth story. The name of this fourth story is Khoodeh, the youngest born. Now, here, Khoodeh, this word itself means little, tiny. So, let's start. Once upon a time, there was a family of 7 brothers, 6 of whom were married, while Khoodeh, the youngest, remained single. They did not form a joint family, the brothers living independently of one another. Khoodeh had been his father's favorite, and to him he had left the greater part of his possessions in coins and cowries. What is cowries? Cowries is a very old format of money in Indian subcontinent. Their means of livelihood were precarious. While Khude lived in comfort, one day filled with spite and jealousy, they resolved to make away with him, and they cunningly devised a scheme to carry out their intentions. They asked Khude if he would marry, and though he had seen enough to suspect them of treachery, he replied thus to them: My elder brothers, I regard you as worthy of as much veneration as my father. Look out for a wife for me. A few days passed, and Khude's brothers one morning falsely told him that a girl had been found for him. They further said that very night had been fixed for the wedding, and that they must all proceed to her father's house in the evening. Khude pretended to be filled with joy and gratitude and made the necessary preparations for the supposed happy occasion. He knew that his brothers were making ready a pitfall for him, but he did not care, for he was sure of outwitting them. The time for departure came, and the brothers proceeded towards the fictitious house of the fictitious bride. A river had to be crossed, and as they drew near it, Khude managed to fall behind his brothers and escape their notice for a moment. He hurriedly ran towards a cowherd whom he had seen driving home the cows in his charge, and asked him if he would care to marry. The swine grinned wide at the question and answered in the affirmative, and our hero quickly took off his own wedding clothes and exchanged them for those of the cowherd, telling him to approach the wedding party, imitate his benefactor's voice, and, under cover of the darkness of the evening, impersonate him. The deluded creature did as described. The brothers took him into a boat with the ostensible object of crossing the river, but in reality to drown him. When the boat reached the middle of the river, they callously cast him into it under the conviction that it was Khude himself. Khude, in the meantime, had driven the cows into the yard of his house, and when his brothers returned, they saw him cooking his evening meal. Their surprise on seeing alive and well the man whom they believed they had thrown into the river and drowned was as great as can be imagined. But great as their surprise was, they did not lose their impudence and exclaimed, Alas, brother Khude, the boat received a terrible shock, and you, the gem of our eyes, fell out. We tried much to save you, but our attempts were vain. Broken hearted, we have returned home. Come, let us hold you close to our hearts. By the by, where have you got the cows from? I thank heaven for sparing me and thus saving you from the pangs of bereavement. replied Khoodeh. Just as I was being carried by the waves underneath the surface of the river, I found one of these cows swimming close by and got on its back. Reaching dry ground, I met a being full of effulgence who must be a god, beckoning me from a short distance away, and when I drew near, he said, "Say hey 7 times, and each time a cow will come up from the water and place itself at your disposal." I obeyed him and thus got the 8 cows which you see. Khuday's brothers went away very much dejected at their failure. So, what happened next? So, I suppose this is the youngest brother Khoodeh, and we will discover that what happened next to to his 6 brothers. So, till then, be happy, be jolly. Tada!